Hello everybody, this is Jonathan Fox. Welcome back to our second episode of the Real Talk Real Estate Show. Last week, we spent a long time talking directly to my sellers out there on what they can do to get the most for their property. So I felt like it was only appropriate to come back this week and speak directly to my buyers out there that are looking for the exact same result. And so I pose a question: have you ever started looking for something when you started and where you ended up are completely different, where the result way over here was something that you didn't expect when you started? Well, if so, this next show is directly for you, so check it out. Washington, D.C. real estate. Fiercely competitive and always changing. Where people from all corners of the world come to make their mark. So on this show, we get real. Real about what actually matters. Where I show you what's behind the curtain, and you get a new perspective. Because having the knowledge and insight means the difference between winning and losing. Welcome to Real Talk Real Estate. Thanks for checking in with us. In fairness, the first episode that we recorded actually hasn't aired yet. And I want your participation. I want you to get involved. This show is about what you want to hear. So use the hashtag AskJohnFox, and your questions, as promised, will always be featured on this show. But given the fact we didn't have your questions because you didn't even know this existed yet, I wanted to just go with a different article that was featured in the Washington Post that got a lot of attention. So, and it again speaks directly to my buyer clients. So this is designed specifically to help you on your home search better organize everything that you need to go through, so at the end of the day you're saving your time, your energy, your money, and ultimately being the best buyer, the most informed buyer, and the buyer that's going to be successful. Because in this marketplace, it is easy to waste time, and it is easy to look at options that are just not right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And again, we want you to participate using the hashtag AskJohnFox, and your questions will be on this show. But let's jump right in. So this is designed specifically, what should you know before starting that home search? And again, we're going to post a link to the article at the end of this show, and you can read it. But I want to hit you with some of the highlights because, again, I spent the first part of my career nearly exclusively working with buyers. And it may seem easy. You go out, you look at things, and all of a sudden you run into the place of your dreams, you make an offer, and you go to closing, and that's the end of it. If it were only that simple, then I think there would be a lot more success stories out there, but unfortunately, there aren't. So I want to help you save your time. So the number one thing, and I put it first, we'll jump right in, is to do your research. Now that may seem really simple and to just grasp, but I will say this. The number one thing you could do is do regular internet sweeps on a nightly basis. So you're looking at communities, organizing your search. So ultimately you have a sense of where you want to be, what the prices in those neighborhoods are. But here's the second part, and here's the real kicker. I don't want you to stop there. I want you to then get in the car the next day, the next week, whatever it is, and actually go to those open houses. Drive those neighborhoods. Test your commute out. And it's amazing. I've had buyer clients that say, I want to be in Arlington, I want a 2-bedroom, and they go out and they look at 2 bedrooms in Arlington, and then they realize all of a sudden that 5-mile stretch of 66 going into town doesn't work for them. That commute is just, it's not going to work. And so meanwhile, this entire time we were looking at places in Arlington when they, just by driving it once or twice themselves, could have realized, hey, that ain't going to work. We've got to change gears here. So it's about doing your research to be the best possible buyer, but ultimately you need to take it a step further and actually go visit these neighborhoods and just see it at different times of the day. And it's not for my sake, the realtor's sake, but for yours. I mean, early in my career, it's almost like a bad joke. I would spend time driving from Fairfax to DC, from Bethesda to Frederick, looking at different shape, size properties. And it's so amazing because some of my clients, we'd pull up, and from the driveway, they would eliminate it. We didn't even have to go inside before they were like, let's get out of here and go to the next one. And so it's an incredible waste of time, but it also, you could just do yourself so many favors by actually going to visit these properties ahead of time. And it's not for my sake, I'm cool with it. It's what I do, but ultimately I think your time's valuable, and I think that is the number one way to save your time, is to actually go visit these properties. So that's what I always start with: do your research. So now that we got through that, I want to say that this one, I bet you won't do if I'm going to make a bet, but I guarantee it may be one of the most effective tools you can implement. And again, this is before you've gone to see anything. You're doing your research fine, but I want you to pull out a pad of paper, notepad, get out a pen, and literally write down your real estate goals. I don't mean like just have them in your head, but literally write them out. Say, I want at minimum 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, if that's the case. I want it to be in this part of town, and these are the most important things in my home search. And it's remarkable when I have buyers tell me what's important to you. We're at our consultation, we're having a cup of coffee and we're talking. They say it's really important to us that we have a chef's kitchen or that we have a nice outdoor space. That's fine. But when we actually go looking at properties that have a chef's kitchen or an outdoor space, all of a sudden, the neighborhood, we don't really like this. Well, I always go back to the fact that if we were to organize your priorities, say number 1 through 5, the most important through the 5th most important, and we really focused our search on those 5 things, and something about writing things out really crystallized the information. I mean, it really does wonders for then knowing in a real sense what's important. If we just would have started with those top 5 things that are important to you, we would have tailored our search in a completely new direction. Meanwhile, we're looking at chef's kitchens with nice outdoor space, and it's not doing anything for you. You're bored with it. So again, we're back to square zero. So again, take out a pen and paper, write down your real estate goals, and you will find yourself maybe surprising yourself. So again, I'm betting that you won't, but if you do it and you do it in a real way, you take it seriously, you're going to learn some things. And the more you know, the more I can help you. The more a real estate professional will help you. So that's really important, but I will say in light of how to then organize what's important to you, you have 3 major categories. And in my entire career, these 3 categories have not changed, and this equation has remained the same. You have price, description, geography. Again, price, description, geography. How much it costs, what it has, bedrooms, bathrooms, granite countertops, fixer-upper, any of those factors, wood floors, carpet, I mean, all that stuff, description. Geography, where it's located. Again, going back to, I want to be with it inside the Beltway. And that's all stuff that's good to articulate. Or maybe I want that school district because the kids are going to benefit from that. I mean, whatever the case is, geography is a huge component of any search. And especially in our area where, if we're honest with ourselves, mass transit and our roadways are about 20 years overdue. And since the metro is so unreliable and terrible and the Beltway has never been widened, and where you live can have a major impact on your lifestyle. So that's a real thing. If you don't want that long commute, we got to focus your search on closer in areas, which this leads me to my next point. Once you have those 3 articulated, pick 2. That's it, because you're only getting 2. The third one, forget about it. If I say I want 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, my description, I can't negotiate on that. I need 3 beds, I need 3 baths, that's super important, and I have to be in Calorama, Adams Morgan. I have to be in that little corridor off the red line, close into town. Well, guess what? Take out your wallet, because that's going to cost a lot. You don't get to tell me how much that costs. The market's going to dictate that. But the other side's true. If I say I have $500,000 to spend and I need 3 beds, 3 baths, well, heck, where that is going to be the variable. You may not find that until you go all the way out to Rockville or you go all the way out to Fairfax, right? So it's a series of give and takes. You pick those 2. I pick the price, I pick the geography, but the description is going to be that variable over here. And until someone can break that equation, I've never seen it change. You get 2, the third's the variable. So get real about what makes sense to you, not what makes sense to maybe someone. Write it out, put it on paper, and all of a sudden your search will become crystallized and you will then search in a much smarter way. So when you're doing your research, if you go back to number 1, you will hopefully be targeting the areas you really want. So it's writing stuff out can be a real help. I could talk more about that, but give that a shot. So once you get through all that, once you've written out your goals, you've done your research, I think it's appropriate to transition into kind of the third phase of what we're talking about. And it specifically deals with budget. This is going to be really important for my first-time home buyers. I'm certain of it. But also, most people I encounter are on a budget. So unless you have Donald Trump's money or somebody else, you're probably operating within some type of parameters that you feel comfortable spending. So it's an element of the transaction that will ultimately dictate a lot of how we're going to search for different things. But I have some tips that may help you, and again, especially to my first-time home buyers. So let's face it, if you talk to your parents or grandparents, they're going to say something. They're going to say, son, daughter, whoever, get a 30-year fixed mortgage. It remains the staple of financial security. You're going to lock in a low interest rate, and heck, rates are great right now. That's a good thing to lock in. I mean, historically good, incredibly good. So yeah, I want you to lock in a great interest rate, and getting a 30-year fixed mortgage is an absolute guarantee that you're going to be able to accomplish that. But I'll ask you the second question. How long do you plan to be in your property? I mean, think about it. Maybe you're getting your first one-bedroom condo, or maybe your family's small and you're getting a townhouse, but you definitely know in the next 5-10 years, you're going to be in that single-family house. So while the 30-year fixed mortgage is an excellent financial tool to lock in a low rate and build stability and ultimately pay down your balance, I encourage you to take it a step further and look at the chart of a 30-year mortgage. Look at the scale. Specifically, I want you to hone in on years 1 through 10. And you're going to find out something that is, it's not going to make you happy. If you don't plan on being there for the entire 30 years, you are going to spend the majority of years 1 through 10 making interest payments. Your principal balance in the first couple of years of that 30-year mortgage is largely going to be unchanged. You're going to spend 90+% of each payment, and 90 plus is probably even a little bit low, 95+% on interest alone. So if you plan on being there for 30 whole years, it's 2016 and 2046 you're telling me you're going to be in that property, then I say go out and get a 30-year fixed mortgage. But let's say you're thinking to yourself, I'd like to afford a little bit more of a house. And yeah, I'm not going to be here more than 5 or 7 years. Or maybe in 5 or 7 years, I'm hoping to double my income because I'm getting my first gig out of school, but ultimately I'm going to get more money and hopefully get promoted and that sort of thing. I mean, you're betting on yourself when you do this, but guess what? Getting a 30-year mortgage is betting on the fact that for the next 30 years, you're going to be gainfully employed and able to make that payment. So I don't care how you cut it up, you're not saving a ton of risk by going with one type of loan versus another. So maybe everything when qualifying for a mortgage has to do with ratios. So the lender, the banks are going to look at your overall income, your debts, kind of calculate all that in and say you therefore qualify for putting 10% down a $400,000 house, which means you're going to finance $360,000 and use a $40,000 down payment. Congratulations. Well, they came up with that because they figured that's the amount of payment that you can responsibly take on without them having to go through the foreclosure process if something should happen. And believe me, banks have become risk adverse. They are not looking to take on risk. They are looking for sure things. But going back to that premise that the entirety of your payment for the first couple years is going to be interest alone, let's say you went with a 3-year, a 5-year, or even a 7-year ARM, which basically means for those couple years, your interest rate is artificially below market. So if I can get a 4.5% 30-year fixed interest rate today, I might be able to get a 5-year ARM payment where for those first 5 years, my interest is only 3.5%. The downside of that is at the end of that 5-year, my interest rate is unknown. It's not guaranteed. It's going to adjust to whatever current market conditions are, albeit it's going to adjust in increments. It's not going to adjust overnight necessarily, and that depends on the loan type and too much time. There's too many outliers we could discuss, but ultimately it's going to adjust at the end of that ARM period. But for those 5 years, the amount of interest you're paying has gone down. So maybe you can afford to place more of your money into the principal balance. Or maybe that allows you, based on your debt to income or whatnot, to afford more of a house. So you don't necessarily have to move in 5 years because maybe now you can afford that 3-bedroom where right now on a 30-year fix you can only get the 1-bedroom. So I hope that makes sense, but I'm just going to encourage you, play around with the ratios. Do not be afraid to explore options in lending. I think a 5-year ARM is an excellent option for some, a terrible idea for others. And only you know that, and that largely depends on where you're planning to be in 5 years. But I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that have sold their property after 5 years. Therefore, that 30-year fixed mortgage really didn't perform all that well. So it's a thing you have to run forward, but ultimately I encourage you to do so if you want to adjust that affordability column in your home search. The only thing I'll say about it too is that I would take a very hard look, and most lenders are not going to spend a lot of time telling you about this, so I'm going to do you a favor because I think it's really true. Take a hard look at the 15-year fixed mortgage product. 15-year fix, you just cut your time, your debt time in half. You're only making payments for 15 years. Well, guess what? Your rate's going to be better than the 30-year fix because the note is paid in half the amount of time, but your payment doesn't double by going 15 years versus 30. A $400,000 mortgage balance may cost you $2,500 a month. On a 15-year fix, that same $400,000 may only cost you another $500 a month. Meanwhile, you are saving so much money, 15 years to be exact, of interest payments. And you're paying down the same principal balance. So that's the other way that you might be able to work it in your advantage, where you're all of a sudden paying half the interest, your payment goes up a little bit, maybe you buy a smaller house, but it is gone in 15 years. You have a paid off property. And you're not paying the banks a lot of interest in the interim for that. So it's something that I encourage you to explore. But ultimately, I'm going to go back to the 3 points. You got to do your research. And by research, again, we want you to go, feel, touch, explore, be in the communities you're hoping to be in. Number 2, I want you to write it down. Seriously, write it down. I know, I'm betting you won't, but please do. And again, I want you to focus on the budget. Take a critical look at what you can and can't afford and ways that you can ultimately save you money on interest payments. And once you've done all that, I think maybe one of the more important things I can say is have some flexibility, make those trade-offs, pick those 2 of the 3 categories that are really important to you, and don't worry about the third one because you can't have it anyway. So losing sleep over something you can't have is not going to be very effective. So I think we can leave it there for this episode. But again, being serious, I want your participation. I want to hear from you. I want to know how you felt about what I just said. Do you have any additional questions? Should I dive deeper into any of these categories? Do you have any other home buying questions? Hit me with the hashtag AskJohnFox, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We will answer you. I will send you a message back if it can't be aired on this show, but I'm telling you, if it's important to you, it's on your mind, it's probably on other people's minds too. So I think we'll call it there. Hope you got a lot out of that, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks. That's it.